Hello and namaste to all of you. Today, in our arrangement for schools audio, we are doing Unit 2.2, audio number 27th, Environmental Calamities. This audio is very useful for school students and can be used in arrangement period. The general instruction for students are the same, that they have to listen it very carefully and note down 10 words in their notebooks. Audio number 27th, Sustainable Development 2.2. Point number 6 of the Unit 2.2, Environmental Calamities, and the content is cyclones. Point 6, cyclones. One of the most common coastal calamities is the cyclone. Cyclones claim many lives and cause immense damage to property every year. A tropical cyclone that struck northern Bay of Bengal in 1970 caused tidal waves of 6 meters high, killing 300,000 people and destroying 65% of the total fishing capacity of the coastal region. During the cyclonic storms, winds moved forward with a speed of 25 km per hour and at times reached 200 km per hour, destroying and annihilating everything or anything on their path. The cyclones are caused in the tropical belt when seawater gets heated up to 27 degrees Celsius and more, resulting in the development of low pressure areas above the water levels. The low pressure areas remain stationary for 3 to 4 days and draw energy from the sea surface. As the pressure in the center falls, the wind speed increases and cloud burst starts spiraling around the center, causing squalls. As the pressure falls in the center, the winds in the surrounding areas rush inwards, creating spirally moving storms. The cyclone then moves landward towards areas of lowest pressure. Cyclones. The history of no state is as stormy as that of Andhra Pradesh. In this century alone, the state has been pounded by 18 devastating storms, causing enormous loss of life and property. The Divisima cyclone, the worst in the last century, left more than 10,000 dead and ravaged property worth rupees 175 crore in 2,300 villages. Andhra Pradesh has the longest coastline of all the states in the country. The 760-kilometer length along the sea has laid bare the state to the fury of cyclones that have been a regular feature in the Bay of Bengal. In 1977 saw Dibisima wiped out. 1996 saw Nellore, Prakasam, Konasima reel under the cyclones of the bay. The disaster which hit the coast has taken a toll of thousands of lives. Millions of acres of ready to harvest paddy was destroyed. Horticultural plantations was lost. It will take a generation to overcome this loss. The cyclone storm that lashed the paddy reached East Godavari district, especially Konasima region, wrought havoc on the coconut groups, paddy fields and property. The killer cyclone destroyed about 5 million coconut trees spread over an area of 1000 square kilometer in Konasima. Today, with the advancement in weather prediction techniques, remote sensing satellites, and cooperation between countries in sharing information on weather conditions. It is possible to predict the birth of a cyclone and monitor its movements to pinpoint the area where it would hit the coast. In spite of this, the damage caused is very severe. The well-planned relief operations going haywire in the last minute. In the areas that are prone to cyclones, the governmental and non-governmental agencies have perfected the drill and the routine to be followed in the pre, during, and post cyclonic storms. But more often than not, lack of coordination between different agencies or they are working at cross purposes and starting the preparations at the last minute will undo all the planning. The case in point is the cyclone shelters constructed along the eastern coast in Andhra Pradesh. None of the shelters is well maintained and have become uninhabitable and unusable when needed. Point 7. Tsunamis. Tsunamis are among the most terrifying natural hazards known to man and have been responsible for tremendous loss of life and property. Because of its destructiveness, tsunami has an important impact on the human, social, and economic sectors of our societies. In the Pacific Ocean, where the majority of these waves have been generated, the historical record shows tremendous destruction. On 26 December 2004, the Indian coastline experienced the most devastating tsunami in recorded history. The tsunami was triggered by an earthquake of magnitude 9.0 on the Richter scale at 3.4 degree north, 95.7 degree east off the coast of Sumatra in the Indonesian archipelago at 6:29 hours IST 00.59 hours GMT. A tsunami is a wave in the ocean or in a lake that is created by a geologic event. They are also known as tidal waves or seismic sea waves. Most tsunamis are very weak and have heights of only a few inches or centimeters, but the intensity varies from time to time. Near the place where they are created, these larger tsunamis may have heights of many feet meters. As they spread out or move into the deep ocean, their heights decrease to a foot or less. However, their heights increase again as the tsunami waves reach shallow water near impact areas. The expected heights for these larger tsunamis are around 30 to 70 feet. Tsunamis are most often caused by earthquakes and landslides. Volcanic eruptions can also cause tsunamis. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake devastated the shores of Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and other countries with waves of up to 15 centimeter, that is 50 feet high, even reaching the east coast of Africa 4500 kilometers 2800 miles west of epicenter. At least 79,900 people were killed by the earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia. Tsunamis killed at least 41,000 people in Sri Lanka, 10,000 in India, 4,000 in Thailand, 120 in Somalia, 90 in Myanmar, 66 in Malaysia, 46 in Maldives, 10 in Tanzania, 2 in Bangladesh, 1 in Seychelles, and 1 in Kenya, and the count is still taking place. Tsunamis caused damage in Madagascar and Mauritius and also occurred in Cocos Island and reunion. The tsunami crossed into the Pacific Ocean and was recorded in New Zealand and along the west coast of South and North America. The earthquake was felt 8 at Banda Aceh and 5 at Medan, Sumatra, and second to 4 in parts of Bangladesh, India, Malaysia, Maldives, Myanmar, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. This is the fourth largest earthquake in the world since 1900 and is the largest since the 1964 Prince William Sound, Alaska earthquake. Mangroves as a seed. Though we cannot prevent the occurrence of such natural calamities, we should certainly prepare ourselves to mitigate the impact of the natural fury on the population inhabiting the coastal ecosystems. Our anticipatory research work to preserve mangrove ecosystems at the first line of defense against devastating tidal waves on the eastern coastline has proved very relevant today. The dense mangrove forests stood like a wall to save coastal communities living behind them, said M.S. Swaminathan, Chairman M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation MSSRF, Chennai. The mangroves in Pichwaram and Muthupet region acted like a seed and bore the brunt of the tsunami. An anticipatory research program with a two-pronged strategy to meet the eventualities of sea level rise due to global warming started few years ago. One is to conserve and regenerate coastal mangroves along the eastern coast of the country, and the second is transfer of salt tolerant genes from the mangroves to selected crops grown in the coastal regions. The MSSRF will soon be publishing a scientific document, Tsunami and Mangroves, highlighting the need to conserve and rehabilitate mangroves as the frontline defense against tidal forces. Alternative cropping patterns to provide household economic and nutrition security for the rural poor will also be developed, according to Professor Swaminathan. Human failure. Even though the tragedy could not have been averted altogether, thousands of precious lives could have been saved. There is a collective failure of the tremendous knowledge base in this country. The unfortunate fact is that even with routine things such as flood warning systems in place, precious lives continue to be lost in this country during disasters such as cyclones and floods. Somewhere there is both carelessness and carelessness in our administrative mechanisms, which fail to act quickly and efficiently when it comes to preventive action to minimize loss of lives. But one awaits the day when we will boast of a collective sensitivity that considers our 1 billion plus population, including the poor and the unprivileged, not a liability but an asset, human capital of the extraordinary variety that deserves to be nurtured and jealously guarded. The government proposed to install the equipment required for predicting tsunamis within the next 2.5 years. The indigenous warning system includes putting in place a deep ocean assessment and reporting system, around 20 data buoys, and a software program that would help predict the location, time, and height of any tidal formations like tsunamis based on the changes and disturbances detected underwater following seismic changes. India would approach the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center and countries such as Indonesia, Thailand, and Myanmar for required international cooperation in its proposed software program for the networking of the available data on tsunami and deep water oceanic changes. Point 8. Hurricanes. Hurricane is a severe tropical storm that forms in the North Atlantic Ocean, the Northeastern Pacific Ocean, or the South Pacific Ocean. It produces violent winds, incredible waves, torrential rains, and floods. A tropical storm becomes a hurricane when wind reaches 74 miles per hour. Its movement towards land results in a massive damage to the lives and property of the people. These storm surges have proved to be fatal, inflicting a heavy casualty when they occur. Hurricanes are also known as typhoons, tropical cyclones, cyclonic storm, and severe tropical cyclones. Their occurrences are frequent over the Caribbean, Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico, and the Pacific East, often forcing the evacuation of people from the dangerous zones. The recent hurricanes in the US, especially in Louisiana, Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, have wreaked havoc, trapping hundreds of people in their flooded homes and damaged property worth billions of dollars along the coastal towns and cities. Several people died and the dead bodies were seen floating in water. The winds at a speed of 240 kilometers had battered these places and resulted in structural damages of the buildings. The insurance damages are perhaps the highest in the US history, touching an estimate of 12 to 25 billion dollars. Tornadoes. Tornadoes. Tornadoes, like hurricanes, are also violent storms. In US, around 1,000 tornadoes are reported to be occurring every year. A tornado is a violently rotating column of air extending from a thunderstorm to the ground. The tornadoes with 250 mile per hour wind speeds are supposed to be the most violent ones. They occur at any time of the year and anywhere in the US, leading to severe damages of lives and property. Point 9. Volcanoes. A volcano is a geological landform, usually a mountain, where a substance, usually magma, erupts through the surface of a planet. Although there are numerous active volcanoes on various planets and moon, this phenomenon occurs on Earth near the boundaries of the continental plates. When this magma moves to the surface through the Earth's outer crust, it releases pent up gases. As the pressure increases, it results in the eruption of the volcanoes. As it flows down, it is called lava. The hotter the lava, the faster it flows, and the estimated heat is about 1175 degrees centigrade. They can be classified as acidic or basic depending on the percentage of silica in lava. The largest lava shield on Earth, Mauna Loa, is 9,000 meters tall and 120 kilometers in diameter. Volcanoes may be dormant, having no activity, or active with constant expulsion and occasional eruption. The eruptions are often preceded by low magnitude earthquakes. Gas emissions are a prime factor of volcanic eruption in that it has hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen chloride, and fluoride. The minor gases include hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and volatile metal chlorides. Stratovolcanoes or composite volcanoes are tall conical mountains composed of both lava flows and ejected material, which form the strata that give rise to the name. Classic examples include Mount Fuji in Japan and Mount Mayon in the Philippines. Supervolcano. Supervolcano is the popular term for large volcanoes that usually have a large caldera and can potentially produce devastation on a continental scale and cause major global weather pattern changes. Potential candidates include Yellowstone National Park and Lake Toba, but are hard to identify given that there is no formal definition of the term. Submarine volcanoes. Submarine volcanoes are common features on certain zones of the ocean floor. Some are active at the present time and in shallow water disclose their presence by blasting steam and rock debris high above the surface of the sea. Many others lie at such great depths that are tremendous weight of the water above them results in high confining pressure and prevents the formation and explosive release of steam and gases. Even very large deep water eruptions may not disturb the ocean surface. Mud volcanoes. Mud volcanoes are formations which are often not associated with magmatic activity. Active mud volcanoes tend to involve temperatures much lower than those of igneous volcanoes, except when a mud volcano is actually a vent of an igneous volcano. Point 10. Preparedness, preparation, and management of calamities. There have been specific ways of countering and minimizing natural calamities in general, but more important strategies are to be adopted as follows. Emergency preparedness is to be viewed as a program of long-term development activity whose goal is to strengthen the overall capacity and capability of a country to manage efficiently all types of energies and bring about an orderly transition from relief through recovery and back to sustainable development. Emergency preparedness is an ongoing multi-sectoral activity. It forms an integral part of the national system responsible for developing plans and programs for emergency management, prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. Prevention and preparedness to reduce the costs of disasters. The fundamental goal of the UNEP disaster management program is to reinforce the centrality of environmental concerns in disaster management. The other cornerstone is the adoption of preventive strategies and practical measures to reduce the potential loss of human lives and property as well as destruction of the environment. The success of this approach depends on increasing public awareness of the risks that natural, technological, and environmental hazards pose to societies and on educating people about the value of existing approaches for prevention and preparedness. Even EP contributes to this process through its programs on environmental law, early warning and assessment, and awareness and preparedness for emergencies at local level. APELL. Even EPs APELL Awareness and Preparedness for Emergencies at Local Level program developed in conjunction with governments and industry recognizes that the incidence and effects of environmental disasters can be reduced by prevention and preparedness initiatives at the local level. The APELL concept has been successfully introduced to more than 30 countries and in more than 80 industrial communities worldwide. The UNEP strategy includes the promotion of cleaner production processes and technologies and helping countries establish cleaner production centers. A major objective of the UNEP early warning and assessment program is to evaluate the increasing vulnerability of human society due to widespread environmental and climatic change in order to emphasize the need for sound integrated environmental management and to provide early warning of emerging threats of preparedness and response. The International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction (IDNDR) was established by the United Nations to function for a period of 10 years starting January 1990. The basic aim is to encourage further recent trends in natural disaster management from a reactive strategy of post-disaster improvisation, which relies heavily on relief aid to a more proactive strategy of pre-disaster planning and preparedness. According to IDNDR International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction 1992, the five goals of the decade were identified as number one, to improve the capacity of each country to mitigate the effects of natural disasters expeditiously expeditiously and effectively, paying special attention to assisting developing countries in the assessment of damage potential and in the establishment of early warning systems and disaster resistant structures were needed. Number two, to devise appropriate guidelines and strategies for applying existing scientific and technical knowledge, taking into account the cultural and economic diversity among nations. Number three, to foster scientific and engineering endeavor aimed at closing critical gaps in knowledge in order to reduce loss of life and property. Number four, to disseminate the existing and new technical information related to measures for the assessment, prediction, and mitigation of natural disasters. Number five, to develop measures for the assessment, prediction, prevention, and mitigation of natural disasters through the technical assistance programs and technology transfer, demonstration of projects, and education and training tailored to specific disasters and locations and to evaluate the effectiveness of those programs. The RLC, a human-induced environmental and humanitarian disaster. The destruction of the Aral Sea is now a well-known example of unsustainable development. Atlas used to describe the sea as the world's fourth largest lake with an area of 66,000 km square and a volume of more than 1,000 km cube. Its waters supplied local fisheries with annual catches of 40,000 tons, while the details of its tributaries hosted dozens of smaller lakes and biologically rich marshes and wetlands covering 550,000 hectares. In the 1960s, planners in the former Soviet Union assigned Central Asia the role of supplier of raw cotton. Irrigation was imperative, and the Aral Sea and its tributaries seemed a limitless source of water. Irrigated land was expanded about was expanded from about 4.5 million hectares in 1960 to almost 7 million hectares in 1980. The local population also grew rapidly from 14 million to about 27 million in the same period, while total water withdrawal almost doubled to an annual 120 kilometer cube, more than 90% of it for agriculture. The result was the collapse of the prevailing water balance in the basin. Waterlogging and salinization eventually affected about 40% of irrigated land. Overuse of pesticides and fertilizer polluted surface water and groundwater, and the delta ecosystem simply perished. By 1990, more than 95% of the marshy and wetlands had given way to sand deserts, and more than 50 delta lakes covering 60,000 hectares had dried up. The surface of the Aral Sea shrank by one half and its volume by three quarters. The mineral content of the water has increased fourfold, preventing the survival of most of the sea's fish and wildlife. Commercial fishing ended in 1982. Former seashore villages and towns are now 70 kilometers from the present shoreline. Communities are facing appalling health problems. In Karkal, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, drinking water is saline and polluted with a high content of metals that causes a range of diseases. Over the past 15 years, there has been a 3000% increase in chronic bronchitis and kidney and liver diseases, especially cancer, while arthritic diseases have increased 6,000%. The infant mortality rate is one of the world's highest. Five newly independent Central Asian states have now established a joint commission for water coordination. Several international organizations and bilateral agencies are providing assistance, and an international fund for the Aral Sea and the Interstate Council for the Aral Sea problems have been set up to coordinate initiatives. The Central Asian republics have decided to focus on demand management, aiming to reduce water withdrawal by raising irrigation efficiency. The primary objective is to satisfy crop water requirements. Total water withdrawal in the basin was now stabilized at 110 to 120 km cube per year, but environmental degradation continues. Effective risk management of any calamity depends on the implementation of sequential series of actions. The individual stages often overlap, but it is crucial that they operate as a closed loop because the major objective is to learn from the past experiences and prepare an action plan based on the feedback. Number one, pre-planning covers a wide range of activities like construction of defensive engineering works, land use planning, formulation, dissemination, and maintenance of evacuation plans. Number two, preparedness reflects the degree of alertness immediately before and after the occurrence of calamity. Arrangement for emergency warnings and preparedness based on earlier experiences. Number three, response deals with events immediately before and after the occurrence of the calamity and pressing into service relief activities. Number four, recovery and reconstruction are long term activities that attempt to return to normalcy after the occurrence of the calamity. It is unfortunate but true that although environment is clearly something that humans value, it is usually prioritized less by people when they are faced with threats to their own lives or immediate possessions. Summary. Let us summarize that we have studied so far. Earthquakes, floods, droughts, and cyclones cannot be predicted in advance, and when they occur, they cause great loss of life and extensive damage to property and infrastructure. Natural calamities have been occurring from times immemorial, but of late the damage caused has become qualitatively and quantitatively more, resulting in loss of human life and property over large regions, disrupting essential services and social structure. The United Nations called upon the national governments to integrate disaster mitigation programs with the development planning. Development, if viewed as the process which enhances society's access to resources and their application to improve quality of life of the members of society in terms of their well-being and access to amenities, then the same development contributes to the frequent occurrence of natural disasters. The ability of an individual, family, community, and nations to protect themselves against the adverse effect of a natural calamity is determined by their economic strength. It is estimated that 95% of deaths from a natural calamity occur among 66% of the world population living in poorer countries. For example, the major impact of drought is felt by agricultural laborers and small farmers. The major impact of floods are felt by the settlements of poorer sections of populations in the developing countries living in flood prone areas, and the effects of earthquakes are felt by poor families living in fragile households. Under certain circumstances, development can increase disaster proneness. The location of a dam is in area of high seismic activity. The construction of roads in difficult terrains or unstable geomorphologic conditions and promotion of water intensity crops in areas of unpredictable rainfall and are examples of development measures dictated by policies of globalization leading to or aggravating the phenomena of natural calamities. In spite of the absence of prediction mechanisms to pinpoint the location, the timing and intensity of natural disasters, the preparedness management and the pre and post operative mechanisms help in the mitigation of people's suffering and in reconstruction mechanism. It it is our audio number 27. In next audio number 28, we will discuss about the man-made disasters. Okay, thank you.